Gentlemen, I'd like to call the Douglas School Committee to order on April 24th with a roll call vote of who is present from the school committee, please.
Beth Bergstrom here.
Heather Moore is present. We're ready to go.
Hi. Good to see you guys. So I always think it's sort of just useful to sort of set the table in terms of where we were, what we're doing today, et cetera. I know that we had provided responses, a couple of counters, a wage proposal to you all last time. You had provided some new proposals.
Yep.
Which we have discussed to have responses to. I guess my question would be if you have responses to our various proposals and a counter to our wage proposal?
Yes, we
Okay.
do, and we do have, because of the delay, we have just, I think, 2 other small proposals that are new for today, and then a bunch of counters and responses on wages and other pieces.
Okay, and I think today is the last day for new proposals. We
Correct.
don't have any new proposals. Oh, we have one?
We have one.
Okay.
Great.
That's good, okay.
Okay. Yeah, so we're happy to start, unless you guys want to start with your one.
Nope, that'd be great, thank you.
Okay, all right. Do you mind passing these out? Yeah, everyone gets one of each. These are extras for the silent reps.
Thank you very much. Oh, we're each getting 2? I see.
Yeah, there's 2
Gotcha.
different
Okay.
forms.
Yep.
Sorry.
No, that's right.
And we'll start with the one that has the incident review form on the front.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, there's one that is a double page. It says Douglas Public Schools Incident Review Form twice, and then one that's sort of the formal proposals. So we just wanted to start with this incident review form because it's been about a little bit over a month since we last met, and again, thank you for understanding that we had to cancel last time. And we've obviously been talking over and over again about safety and have had significant conversation back and forth about what the data collection looks like and could look like and whether or not it should be included in the contract in order to just ensure that people are accurately reporting what's happening and that the district and that the union are able to understand when there's an incident what's going on and to analyze that. So the district, sometime in the last month, implemented the incident review form, which went out to staff, requesting that they fill out a sort of 3-page narrative document when an incident happens. And it then references a secondary document, a report of accident form in case there's injury. And first off, we'd just like to say thank you. We appreciate that that is out there. We appreciate that staff are now aware that there is a procedure and that there's clarity about it, because we did have a lot of back and forth about, what's the clear procedure here. We also feel that this should have been bargained before it went out, that it should have been a conversation with the staff union and others to talk about what's actually on this form and what the time frame and procedures for responding to it are. And sort of case in point, we have one staff member who reported that she had an incident. She filled out a form. It took her about 45 minutes to do so. The next day, she had a similar incident, asked if she should fill out the form, and was told that her administrator would just kind of add it on the previous one. They would make a note on the other one. So there's still not really clarity about this. So we'd just like to start with a little bit of an open discussion about that. And the document in front of you, on the left is the incident form as it was distributed to staff. And on the right isn't really a formal proposal, but is just sort of a reorganization that one of our team members did just to make it more accessible immediately. And one of the things that she did was just change it from an open-ended form, which is essentially asking for a narrative, to a checklist. So we really appreciated that it asks in here what happened before this student incident, what was the action that required intervention, what happened after. And we think that in this case, just a checklist would be appropriate for that. It would give really great initial information and would allow staff to fill it out within, 3 or 4 minutes instead of 45. And sort of similarly, going into the second page of this document, same sort of thing. Did staff, do each of these redirection strategies? What happened? We'd really like there to be just sort of a simple checklist form for this to be done. So it's standardized and we can compare the data. The form also makes note of this other piece that we had a question about, which was the supervisor's report of accident intake form. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is and what that means?
Oh, yes, that's a form, the town's insurance company, Maya. And actually, I would say a good percentage of all municipalities in the entire state of Massachusetts have Maya as an insurance company. And they handle all the workers' comp, and they provide the form that's required and has to be submitted to the state.
Okay, so this is a form that's specific for workers' comp, what happens whenever there's an injury,
Potential.
potentially.
Yep, incident, injury, accident, whatever. Yeah.
So,
Yep, we didn't produce it in any way, shape, or form.
okay.
Yeah.
So I guess the sort of open question then is how can we reorganize this to make it useful for both administration and from the union perspective for producing data that we can analyze and work to improve safety conditions? And it's an open-ended question. I'm not sure if we want to try to dig into that now or if the committee just wants to consider that and we can chat about it later at this time. Okay. So, again, we're extremely happy that this form exists, extremely happy that we're seeing evidence of incident injury tracking and reporting. We just like to use this to really collaborate on that and make sure that it's clear and, again, a contractually valid form here. Great. Starting out, or just continuing with nice things, we also have heard that
Wait, are there not nice things? Is that what
well, it's just
we're
straight
getting
up
towards?
nice
Yeah,
things,
I mean-
things that we don't have to disagree on. We've also heard that regular safety meetings have begun to occur in the buildings at sometimes a biweekly or a monthly basis between administration and staff, where staff can share their concerns. And again, that's just really appreciated. We're glad that our conversations have opened up that dialogue in the buildings. Okay. So,
Just two?
yeah. Okay. Well, you got 2 meetings, and then you got, 4 schools, so that's 8 positive things, right?
Okay,
So-
okay. If you want to multiply.
I love your math.
Yeah.
It's a
All
good
right.
positive spin, James.
We're gonna do the
Yes.
sandwich.
right,
Positive,
that's right.
right?
You're
Are
on
you
a
an
roll, I
English
was
teacher?
hoping.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
All right.
All right.
And you all look lovely today.
See?
There you go. All right, so the second packet, the larger one, is our proposals and our counters for today. I will run through them. Please just stop me if you've got questions, comments, concerns. Proposal 18 is regarding the summer program. The district currently posts openings for their summer program, which are generally filled by staff who work their regular yearly rate during the summer. We would like to enshrine the summer program in the contract and make it a sort of regular contractual benefit that specifically that unit members have sort of first dibs on the summer jobs, and to establish a rate of pay for those positions. The summer work is a little bit different than what happens in the classrooms. So 18A is just the time frame for posting, that the posting of the positions will be between February 1 and May 1. 18B is that the district shall not fill any of the para or ABA summer positions from outside of the unit without going through a list of volunteer applicants from internally, and that the district shall attempt to include both more senior staff and more novice staff when making the hires. So the post goes up. Unit members who are already employed by the district have the first chance, and the district would then, if necessary, try to recruit outside applicants. And then for C, that the unit members in the summer program shall be paid a flat rate of $25 per hour. Depending on the particular wages we agree on, that might be an increase for some, a decrease for others who may be highly qualified. But the summer work is a little bit less variable, and we agreed that $25 an hour is appropriate for it.
And also, it seems that the summer program doesn't fall under the regular guidelines of our contract. There are no sick days or personal days or anything like that. So the summer program does seem to be run as a completely separate entity. So that's why we're attempting to bring it into the contract at this time.
Thank you. Proposal 19 is regarding personal days. We've otherwise discussed increments, but we'd just like to add that staff members may use personal days in half-day increments. Sometimes people need half of a day off. Proposal 20 is job stipends, specifically for any position in this unit that supports students across multiple grade levels outside of regular para and ABA duties, shall be granted a stipend in addition to their regular wages. The two positions that we're aware of that fit this currently are the Academic Development Center para at the middle school, and the library paraprofessional, which is
Elementary and primary.
so both of these positions support, instead of just a one or two or a dozen students, but hundreds of students. Their work is more widely felt than the work of a regular classroom paraprofessional, and frankly involves a little bit more of executive decision-making, program management, and student support. And while we don't think that that needs a whole other category of wages, we believe that they should still get an additional stipend for that work. Could you talk a little bit more about what those two positions look like currently?
Sure. So Janelle Philbrook is the library paraprofessional. Janelle does do prepping. She does prepare for her classrooms. She is running a related classroom in the library at both the elementary and the primary. She's making copies. She's doing all the things that a classroom teacher, in a sense, does. It's just that she's considered a library paraprofessional. She's managing and disciplining class with students, and she's running from 2 different buildings, as well as planning inside the classrooms of what they're going to do. So she is doing all of the things to a point that our teacher is or would do, but not to the same extent. But she's still doing more, considerably more, than what she would be doing if she was a para, and she's being paid a para wage. Academic Development Center, that's my pony in this barn. I have students in front of me for 7 blocks a day. The only time I get off is my 30-minute lunch on a good day. I, on an average, am seeing 48 to 50 students each semester. I am dealing with 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. I'm dealing with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade in a classroom at the same time. And I am supporting all subjects that they have in all grades. It can be difficult, it can be time-consuming, I am committed to those kids, no matter what. And if someone covers for me, they don't get sub-pay because I'm a paraprofessional, and it's a paraprofessional that covers me. I do way more in the Academic Development Center than I've ever done as a para, ever, because I'm dealing with all 3 grades. I am trying to get their copies of their classworks. I am on their iPass constantly. I'm listed as a teacher in iPass so that I can do this job and do it effectively. It's a lot of work. I love it, and I love my kids, and I'm making some great connections and making some great change, but it's a lot of work.
So these two positions, these staff members in these roles are not teachers on record, they're not giving out, full grades, but they are doing, again, a significant more amount of classroom design and just larger scale work. This also, frankly, gives a little bit of framework if there is a future need in the district for a similar situation, where there's a para-unit job where the work is of a little bit of a higher tier as far as scope than a regular para position. That would be something that we could discuss. But at this point, a $3,000 stipend per year seems really reasonable given the sort of larger scope of these two positions. All right. So we're going to move on to counters. Those are our final new proposals. The district previously rejected the majority of union proposals 1, 2, and 3, which related to safety and safety procedures and protocols. We are reproposing all of those with some modifications based on the discussion. 1A is injury reporting. It is mostly what, again, has been put in there previously, but says that staff will immediately report on an agreed-upon form, similar to what the district has implemented, any ongoing injury. We are continuing to request that if a member needs medical support during the day because of an injury sustained at school during their work, that they get time to go get medical attention without any penalty to their own sick time. And then in the second paragraph, we're talking a little bit more about what the log of staff injuries should be. That the district should keep a confidential digital log of reports, but that there will be a monthly report of said injuries to the association at labor management meetings, and that this report shall include the grade level and general incident details, but shall not contain medically confidential information, and that the parties shall work together to remedy any patterns of injury which are identified in these meetings. The union has repeatedly requested whatever injury data is available from the district. All that we have received is a list of the number of injuries which occurred by month. Per month, which is not enough to actually understand or address how to keep injuries from happening in the future.
Yeah, when we made that request, I understood that their confidentiality, but I asked for it to be broken down per building, just so we would have a better idea if it was primarily one building or one section versus district-wide.
Yeah, and we still would like that information to whatever extent it exists. We have filed an unfair labor practice and requesting additional information regarding that.
Can we just stop for a second?
Stop. We need
I think
to-
that door has to be open.
Because it's an open meeting, we need to,
It's an OML thing. It's okay if you did.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's all right.
Being polite and you were trying to keep it, yeah.
Yeah. It's just a,
No, that's fine.
Crazy laws.
Right, so the doors remain open, great. Literally an open meeting.
Yeah.
James, just as a clarification for 1A,
Yep.
if you notice our proposal, we rejected the first part of the proposal and then countered on the second half of 1A. So the way it's written here is that we did not reject the entire thing. We rejected the first portion of it and then countered on the second, which I think we agreed upon the language that, correct, should a staff member have to seek medical attention, that they should be granted the ability to leave without being penalized sick time. So I think
Awesome.
we counted
Thank
that
you.
back on 318.
Okay, thank you.
Again, just a small point, but.
No, it's
yeah.
it's an appreciated one.
Yeah.
Thank you for your agreement on that.
Well,
Yeah.
you haven't agreed upon it yet, we counted it.
Oh, you counted it, all right,
counted
all right, all right, great. So we're reasserting this, then we'll talk about it. We'll have to look at that language.
Yep.
But again, you know, our goal here is not for the union and the administration to dig into everyone's medical history whenever there is an injury. Our goal is for there to be a collaborative discussion, and, you know, and I'm just making these numbers up. Oh, 5 injuries happened last month, but 3 of them were in the 3rd grade. And all the ones in the 3rd grade involved a bite. That's a pattern that we can work with and that we can address. But without that, and without sort of that level of granularity, it's just a bunch of numbers. And the overall log, you know, whatever the district needs for workers' comp, of course, should be confidential unless an individual needs representation. But we need to be sharing the best information that we have here. And again, we need to be really clear that the expectation per the contract is for everyone to report these incidents when they happen. 1B, we are reproposing that if an individual receives a workers' comp claim, that for up to 90 days, the district will provide their missing wages and compensation. Again, especially for individuals on a para salary, going down to 40 or 60% of their wages due to an injury that is no fault of their own can really break someone's personal finances. We've unfortunately already seen it happen. This benefit is very similar to a benefit that exists in the teacher's contract already, and we would like to make sure that all staff, whether they're teachers or paras or ABAs, have access to that. 1C is a counter of the district's response to this. We had a very general clause that if an individual's items were destroyed or damaged, that the district would pay to reimburse them. The district response really limited it in a way that we understand the genesis for. The district limited it to a damage based on an unintended physical assault from a student. Unintended physical act from a student, apologies. We certainly hope that any injuries that happen are unintended, but we just wanted to be clear that if someone has glasses pulled off their face or a phone destroyed or clothing torn due to the actions in their regular job when they're doing their regular duties, that they would be reimbursed by that. So the compromise we're attempted here is that similarly, the committee will reimburse a staff member for the fair market cost to replace or repair clothing or personal property damaged or destroyed in the course of their scheduled workday, which was district language, on district property or during district directed, and should be directed with an ED, duties, including but not limited to damage from an unintended physical act from a student, an assault, faulty equipment, etc. And when reporting the incident as detailed above, members will provide documentation regarding the damaged item, which the district shall review prior to reimbursement. So the goal here is that whatever the final form of an incident report is, part of that would include, was there any staff property damaged? And then if a member, again, eyeglasses are a common one, had an incident where their glasses were ripped off their face and destroyed, they would file an incident report. The incident report would include, I need a new pair of glasses because X happened, and then we could sort of proceed with that process. We do understand the district's desire to make sure that this is a clause that is limited to things that happen during the regular job and during the workday. And we really do hope that by having these safety conversations and having more PPE available, that injuries and damage like this just won't happen. but we just want it to be as sort of clear as possible and sort of an integrated process. If something happens, you report it, you request reimbursement as necessary, you seek medical care as necessary, and then the parties eventually analyze what's happened and try to make sure that everyone's safe in the schools.
Can I ask you a question, James?
Yep.
So I'll use the example that you had provided about the classes.
Yep.
So say a member is doing something that's a district-directed duty. I'm not necessarily sure what that is, I think it's a...
Recess.
Recess, called recess. Member is walking, leans down, glasses fall off, glasses break. Isn't that covered in this language? Including but not limited to?
Well, it says including but not limited to damage from an unintended physical act from a student, an assault, faulty equipment, etc.
Right, but if it's but not limited to, doesn't,
Yeah.
now there's an argument that
Yeah.
you can say basically anytime any kind of personal property is damaged in any kind of event, notwithstanding anything that happened with a kid, right, that all of a sudden the district's on the hook for that.
I hear what you're saying. Frankly, we didn't consider that as an option. And in this hypothetical, I suppose that if a member would have to file an incident report to put in the claim. And I am not sure how the administration would respond if the member's incident report was, I was on recess duty and I tripped, please provide me $400 for a new pair of glasses. So I get the question,
Yeah,
but
but I think here then the union member would say, well, wait a minute, based on this language, you have to reimburse me.
I'm not sure. Yeah, we haven't considered it. I think that
Okay.
if you have a suggestion for how to clarify that, we could certainly discuss it, but the intent wasn't, I'll
And it
use
says
myself
from-
as an example. Go ahead.
And it says here, an unintended physical act from a student. If a student's not involved,
Right, and I think that was our originally proposed language, because I think that was the intent, right, that we had sort of talked about. And what I'm sort of drawing a circle around is the proposed language, because it's proposed as district-directed duties, including but not limited to, means
Okay.
if someone bent over, their glasses fell off, you could then say, these Versace glasses or whatever they are need to be replaced, because I had just, they fell off my head. I know it's a ridiculous hypothetical.
No, and I think
but-
it's worth, so, for example, if I'm going to the restroom and I drop my phone in the toilet, that's on me. If I'm working in the school and a water main breaks and my phone's destroyed, I might be able to reasonably request the district to reimburse that. So I hear your point. I think that we'd be amenable to language that fixes that potential loophole. It's certainly not meant to be a accident insurance for anything bad ever happening on the property.
No.
That's not the intent
Yeah,
here.
I didn't mean to suggest
but
that.
if I'm out at recess
I wanna
duty
point
and I
that
take a soccer ball to the head, my glasses fall.
out.
Yeah.
Right, so I think that kind of is closer to what we had talked about in terms of sort of the intent of it, so.
Yeah, the district's last proposal, I think, just said unintended physical act. And, again, if there's a facilities issue that causes something, we'd like that to be included here too, because it's an overall safety. But I think that it sounds like the point that we are aiming towards is the same one, and I think that we would be amenable to language to fix that. Yes, again, it's not, you drop your phone in the toilet and you get a new phone. That's the thing.
Nice.
It would be a great benefit, if you're willing to do it, sure, it's a great benefit, but. 1D, the district had held this one, we're just reiterating it, that if staff takes small necessities leave act, they should choose whether they're taking that without pay or with a sick or personal time deduction. 2A through C was regarding facilities issues, sort of as we discussed. 2A, we've struck the word immediately, but it is that if there's a facilities issue that may contribute to accident, injury, or illness, the district shall notify via email all staff and union leadership. Again, we think this is just best practice, and we would expect that the district would do it anyway. A boiler breaks or a water main breaks, you would alert folks. We would just like it to be in the contract. 2B was a request for worksite environmental testing. We had originally requested it yearly. We've modified that proposal to, in the district, ensuring that each worksite undergoes environmental hazard testing on an as-needed basis or at the request of staff members with legitimate concerns, such as ventilation and air quality testing, water quality, mold, asbestos, etc., and that the results of the report will be shared by the union and presented at school committee. Again, this is something that we believe would happen anyway if you have moldy ceiling tiles or a concern about air quality in your room. We believe that the district would make a good faith effort to investigate it. We'd like that to be here in the contract so that everyone is aware of it, especially still in this post-COVID world. And then similarly, 2C, which I believe Greg had pointed out is, a good chunk of it is just sort of restating the law, is that if a staff member is aware of an issue, they will report it, and that the district will not retaliate against a member who reports an issue like this. And that in between, there will be some sort of investigation of whatever issue is brought up. So this isn't something that we really see as having a lot of, frankly, financial cost to the district, but it's an important safety feature that we'd like to be included here. Moving on to 3A and 3B, this is in regards to personal protective equipment. We replaced the language that we had proposed originally with language that is really pulled directly from the OSHA requirements on PPE. It's a little bit more wordy, but we are really just, again, pulling this directly from the statute. Protective equipment, including personal protective equipment for eyes, face, head, and extremities, protective clothing, etc., shall be provided, used, and maintained in a sanitary and reliable condition wherever it is necessary by reason of hazards of processes or environment. It's a mouthful, it's very open, but that is the OSHA language, and that's what we're asking for. And we're just including what is already true in there, that any staff member may request PPE from their supervisor, who will prioritize ensuring staff and student safety in their procurement decision.
Can I ask a question on that one? Understanding that you pulled it from OSHA, is there anything about that language particularly that is a reason why you'd advocate for it? I mean, I'm reading it, I'm just trying to understand, because I agree it's wordy.
Yep.
What is it that you would say, this is why we think it's better than other language that we've discussed?
So we had proposed originally sort of language specific to the biggest cause of injury, which unfortunately is students who are having outbursts, right? And we had proposed language about if a student's identified, that PPE would be created, would be sort of brought up. That puts a lot of burden on the district, and it's also very narrow. The district's response was sort of included a mandate of PPE, that if it's provided, staff has to wear it all the time, which again, we don't think is necessarily appropriate because, staff members need to use their judgment as to when they have it on or off throughout the course of the day. So instead of trying to really spell out, in this situation, this PPE is required, in this situation, that PPE is required, we just wanted to sort of go to the biggest umbrella language, which again is already a standard that folks have to adhere to, and bring that in. So it covers the main bases, and again, with paras who are supporting students with severe special needs especially, eye, face, head, and extremity protection is what we're looking for. But what that looks like when you're working with a first grader versus a ninth grader might be very different, and we just wanted to sort of keep that open. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, thank you. It does. I need to think on it myself a little bit, but I understand your answer, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. And then 3B, kind of what we've discussed about already a little bit earlier, that if a staff member is injured at work, the district and the union shall discuss the incident during labor management meetings in a collaborative effort to maximize staff and student safety. If additional PPE is necessary, it shall be appropriated and supplied as soon as possible. So again, really, we're trying to craft contract language that is broad enough to cover all the different situations that might happen in a school, but focused on getting information about an issue, analyzing it, and trying to prevent that from happening again.
I'll be forthright on this one. My antenna goes up when I see this sort of thing where it's the potential dissemination of what could be confidential information.
So, can you say more about what
Yeah, so like,
what your
you
concern
have
is here?
discussed the incident during labor management meetings.
Mhm.
Labor management meetings can have, a handful of folks from either side in the meeting who are then privy to information they wouldn't normally otherwise be privy to, or should be.
You have an incident that happens at the elementary school. Those meetings happen between the two building reps, and the two building reps may not have been a part or anywhere involved in the incident. So now you have potentially a teacher on the second floor communicating with a para on the third floor, who's the building rep as to what happened. Now you have a confidentiality issue.
Are you worried about student confidentiality or staff
Yeah,
confidentiality?
it's fair. I want to parse that out a little bit myself, but I would have, my immediate reaction is concerns about both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, this is the background to a lot of our conversation. Student confidentiality is, of course, important. Relevant data regarding risks to staff is allowed to be shared appropriately. It certainly shouldn't be shared to everyone, but it is allowed to be shared specifically for remediating those sorts of issues. As far as staff confidentiality goes, we maintain the position that the union is authorized to essentially all relevant information about staff and personnel pursuant to bargaining and to staff safety. Again, as always, if someone files a workers' compensation claim, the details of that often get shared with the union, shared with an attorney, et cetera. We understand the district's sensitive to that. In our conversations with the unit, folks have said, that if the district wants them to sign something that says they're okay with the information going to the union, they're happy to. I don't think that we need to under the law, but folks are willing to. And again, if you have an idea on how to reach the end goal of conversation about incidents that reduces future incidents while still preserving the confidentiality, I think that we're very happy to engage with that. So that's the balance here. It needs to be more than 3 people got hurt this month. It certainly should be less than, Frank got bit 6 times in the arms, and because of his injury 10 years ago, X, Y, we don't need that level. But in the balance there's a productive conversation to be had where folks get hurt less. All right. Okay. The next two are just sort of noted. We propose regarding the sick bank and personal days, and we're wondering if the district has a status
counter.
update. Great.
Yep.
Okay. Beautiful. So we can skip that one. We have a counter for Union Proposal 7 and also part of the District Article 20 proposal on substituting. Currently, staff are compensated for each half-day spent substituting, and the district proposed to increase that to $20 per half-day. The issue with that is that staff will often sub for just under half of a day, and they will not be compensated. Staff will, cover for 0.4 of a day, they will disrupt their normal routine, and they will not get any payment. So our request is that substitution pay is made at the same rate as regular pay, which per the current contract is every quarter of an hour, so every 15 minutes. We originally proposed $20 per hour. We've come down to $15 per hour. which would be $3.75 per 15 minutes spent covering. And that would really solve the issue. Staff could still do the same amount of coverage that they do now, but they would, instead of working 2.5 hours and getting paid for nothing, they would work 2.5 hours and get paid for the 2.5 hours that they spent doing their work.
And another issue is, many of our staff actually can use yesterday. Vertical teams yesterday. All the paras were everywhere. They were covering for this one, they were covering for that one, they were covering for that one, they were covering for that one. They put in a full day of subbing, but they were in multiple classrooms. If they're doing math, or if they're doing English, so they're not always, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're always covering for the same teacher. And that's becoming a problem. If we have a para that is covering this teacher for an IEP meeting, and they're gone for, I'm just gonna use a number, I'm not saying that's how long IEP meetings are. And they're gone for 2 hours, okay? And then they go and they do their duty, but then they go and they cover another teacher for a meeting for 2 hours, or say an hour and a half. They just did a half day, no matter how you look at it. They did 3.5 hours of substituting and covering for teachers and being non-compliant with their students. But this has become, we're talking, in existing contract, we're talking $12.50. We're nickeling and diming our paras, who already make a low-level wage. There's no way we're gonna go back to this being a half-day. It has to be hourly. We are taking the hit. The paras are taking the hit constantly. It's not fair and it's not right. It's not fair, it's not right. They submit their timesheets, gets signed off by this one, signed off by this one, but then it gets kicked back, and we're talking about $12.50.
Thanks. Questions about that? Okay. Proposal 8, we're reproposing a modification regarding discipline that the district previously rejected, that the administration shall not discipline a staff member publicly or share confidential documentation without written consent, and any discipline enacted shall be progressive. We had a situation within the last month where a staff member's personal document was a confidential document to an administrator, was misconstrued. The administrator then shared that inappropriately, and essentially nothing has happened because of it. The issue has sort of faded away. But staff documentation, whether it's on their personnel file, whether it's anything confidential that they're providing to their administrator, shouldn't be shared outside of the administrator level without consent.
Is this different from what had been proposed before?
Yeah, we added this confidential documentation sharing.
Okay, all right.
Mhm.
So it's just that, the share confidential documentation without written consent?
Yeah, and it didn't quite rise to the level of public discipline, but it came to a much broader audience than it should have in this case. So unfortunately, I think last time we brought this up, you asked if there was an example of it. At the time, there wasn't, and now there is. All right. So the next is our wage response. This first page, so sort of for simplicity and comparison and for a better understanding of what the district was proposing, we have on the top the sort of key components of your last wage proposal. And for paras, that was a $1.55 base wage increase, Staff who had associate's degree then got an additional $1.27, and a bachelor's degree got an additional $1, we're talking per hour. For ABAs, it was a $1.99 base increase, and then $1.62 for an associate's degree, and then $1 for bachelor's or master's. There was then the adjustment in the first year, 2 years of a percentage COLA, 2.5 and 3, which equates to about 42 or 43 cents on the base, and then evened out step increases and a super step. As we looked at this, a couple things stood out. One being that regardless of your job classification, an advanced degree, an associate's degree, a bachelor's, a master's cost the same. But in the district's original proposal, ABAs got more of an hourly increase than paras did for an equivalent sort of degree. The other thing was that while, especially in teacher contracts, we often talk about percentages, 3% of a $80,000, $90,000 salary is very different than 3% of a $25,000 salary. So we really wanted to focus on the actual base hourly rate of pay instead of percentages. The third piece was that there's been a lot of conversation in the union about the merits of pay for advanced degrees, because there are quite a few staff who have associates, bachelors, or masters. But for the most part, staff at that level are likely going to be getting a teacher certification, especially if you have a master's degree, and moving to a teacher role. So while we really appreciated the district adding this advanced wage category, we don't see it affecting the majority of staff. So what we've done for our response is focused on this idea of a base wage increase. And taking the district's original proposal as a template, we propose a base wage increase for the paras without degrees of $5, same for ABAs based on where they are currently, and then moving staff who have an associate's degree an additional $2 per hour, and staff with a bachelor's or master's an additional $1.50 an hour. And then for FY '26 and '27, instead of doing a increase based on a cost of living percentage, we want to just increase the base rate, and then everything sort of moves from there and increases from there based on the district's 2.25%. So on the back, or the next page, you'll see this in a spreadsheet format. You'll see what it looks like. Again, the main differences here are that we're talking, instead of percentage, we're talking about an increase on the base. And then we did also add a second super step. So there's a super step at 10 years for a $2 an hour increase, and a super step at 15 years for another $2 an hour increase. But what this would do is for a non-degree para, by the end of FY '27, if they've been in the district for 15 years or more, they'd be making just over $30 an hour. And at the absolute highest end of the scale, a ABA, with a bachelor's or a master's degree, and 15 years in the district, would be making $37.15 an hour, which would give us a wage range, top step, of about $35,000 to $47,000 an hour.
An hour?
I wish, sorry. That's a Jeff Bezos number. No,
I
per
really
year,
like his
per year.
math.
Thank you, yeah.
Want to make sure we understand.
Yeah. If you could do 37,000 an hour, yeah. I'll work here for a couple hours, I'll go retire.
Good flip.
Sorry, yeah, per year. And again, for top step ABA with a bachelor's or a master's, you're also hitting kind of the lower level of a teacher pay, which is really appropriate, because at that point, if you've got someone with a bachelor's or a master's degree doing this work, you're getting an immense bargain, really.
James, question.
Yep.
Did you happen to price that out
Compared to your previous one, no, I
for
did
the
not.
year? Okay.
Yep, we can do that, though.
We can do it as well, Joe. I just didn't know if you did it.
We'll do it.
Yeah, no, not in this
We'll do
time.
when we get back. I just didn't know if you
Sure.
had that with you.
Yep. So again, and I'll just sort of add again that the Just to reiterate that the COLA, as it were, isn't just necessarily adding $2.50 to every step. It's putting that money on the base and then letting that sort of filter down through the steps. So we appreciate the district's sort of initial framing of this with the degree piece especially. And this is where we're at.
Okay, great, thank you.
We'll start easy.
Great.
And I'll send you Google Doc tomorrow, James, so you
Sure.
have, if you could do the same.
Of course. Yep.
Thank goodness.
Oh, this is just the,
This is
okay,
us,
that was,
yeah.
yeah, sorry, I was
so
going
I'll-
through, and
and
I
I'll
was,
do-
okay. All right, thanks, yeah, I got confused for a second. Okay, so what you received is just, there's nothing new on the first page or second page up until the bottom of the second page,
Okay.
just to abridge this a little bit, so. And the new article, i.e. our last proposal, a new proposal, is what you see there. And you'll see this on our other document, it's all dated 4/1/24, which was the date of the last meeting that was canceled, so
Yep.
it's sort of carrying over today.
Thank you.
So in order to be considered for an associate's, bachelor's, or master's degree, DESPA members must submit an official transcript from a fully accredited college or university. So that's the newest and last proposal from our side. And then you have another document in front of you, a packet of pages, which is a number of responses straight through both older proposals. Yep. And then the newer proposals that you guys had proposed the last time. So you'll see our prior responses in a lot of these in the dates. So I don't know that it's necessarily worth my running through them.
Sure.
You know, again, and I know that there's been some resubmitted and somewhat modified proposals, for example, on 1A, et cetera. You know that our view is that's operational and management rights for a lot of those. Although we've had some discussion on the larger concept and obviously are happy to engage on that, knowing the importance to you guys. So let me go to page 5, I believe it is, right? Yeah. So page 5 is the first thing I want to draw your attention to, which is our counter on the sick bank. So if you guys recall, we had a lot of discussion on sick bank. I think the way we left it was we would come back to you with some revised sick bank language that was along the lines of what was discussed between the parties outside of negotiations. James, I think you had mentioned that, right?
Yep.
So what we've done is put together framework for a sick leave bank consistent with those discussions. And I'll just sort of read through it. So you'll see there's sort of 12 enumerated parts to this. So number 1, SLB sick leave bank will be organized and administered by an SLB committee consisting of the superintendent, business manager, and 2 members of DESPA. For anyone that sort of looked at sick leave banks elsewhere, you'll see that that's a common way of doing. It's not necessarily like those 4 people, but it's some composition of folks from the union, folks from administration administering the sick leave bank. So it's kind of a joint venture that way. Number 2, participation in the sick leave bank will be voluntary. 3, donations to the sick leave bank will be limited to 1 sick leave day per DESPA member per school year. 4, notification of members of DESPA donating to the sick leave bank must be made in writing on or before November 1st each year to the executive assistant of the superintendent and the assistant to the business manager / payroll. This notification must contain the signature of each member of DESPA donating to the SLB plus that of the president of DESPA or his or her designated representative. DESPA members accept new members entering the system during the school year whose names do not appear on the November 1 notification shall not be allowed to join the sick leave bank until the following school year. So this is kind of the, gatekeeping, if you will, for entry into the bank. 5, a member of DESPA who donates a sick leave day to the sick leave bank will have such day irrevocably deducted from his or her personal accumulated sick leave and may make no further use of the day for any purpose except as authorized under the provisions of the sick leave bank. 6, use of sick leave days from the sick leave bank will be accounted for by the administration in the same manner as his use of individual sick leave, except that a withdrawal of sick leave days from the sick leave bank will be made only when authorized in writing by the president of DESPA or his or her designated representative. Such authorization for withdrawal must state the number of days and the number of the member of DESPA for whom the days are to be credited. 7, donations to the sick leave bank can only be made by November 1st of each year. No member of DESPA can draw more than 185 days for any one illness, inclusive of all accumulated sick leave days the member has at the time of the sick leave bank application. Stated differently, the member must use all accumulated sick leave time first, then may access sick leave bank days for a total of 185 days. The member's accumulated sick leave days count towards the overall 185 days allowed for any one illness. So in other words, if you have 100 days accumulated, you have to exhaust those 100 days. Now you can get up to the 185 days total in the bank, so you have access to an additional 85 days. 8, the total accumulated sick leave in the bank shall not exceed 360 days at any one time. In the event that an annual contribution would cause the number of days to exceed 360, then no such contribution will be made. 9, in the event that the number of days in the sick leave bank should fall below 50, then an additional contribution may be made by sick leave bank members up to a maximum of 360 days. Extra period there. 10, the association shall require medical documentation from each DESPA member seeking to use sick leave bank time. The superintendent or principal may verify and inspect the medical documentation. The sick leave bank committee may require a second opinion from an IME. The cost of the independent medical examination will be borne by the employer. 12, the decision of the sick leave bank board with respect to eligibility entitlement shall be final and binding and not subject to appeal except for reconsideration by the board itself. So in other words, you can't grieve it. I'm confident in telling you guys, if you look at other sick leave banks around, you'll see language like this. These are common elements to every sick leave bank. Feel free to do so. But this is a pretty typical, it's a very typical way of sort of administering a sick leave bank. So let's see. That's
So
go ahead, James.
just one initial question.
Sure.
I see some places already where it aligns with previous, some places where it diverges, we'll have to dig into it. I'm noticing that the use of sick leave days will be accounted for by the administration, but then the association shall require medical documentation, but then separately, the sick leave bank committee may require an independent medical examiner. Can you clarify how the district, in this proposal, how you're seeing the interplay between the union, the district, and the sick leave bank committee when actually processing this?
In terms of like the medical getting medical documentation, is that what you're
Yeah.
saying? Yeah, it's a good question. We may need to tweak that language.
Okay.
Yeah, because it says the association shall require, right? And that's what you're sort of
Yeah,
highlighting?
mhm.
Yeah.
Which I think is from our original proposal.
Yeah,
when-
but it's a good point.
Our original
Let me-
proposal
let
and
me
was originally just
circle that.
essentially that, as is common in some places.
Yep.
The union would manage the administration of the bank, and the district would manage sort of the counting of the days, and then the committee would determine it. So
Yep.
we
No,
can.
that's a good point. We can
Alright.
think on that, because you're right. You're right. I think we probably will need to tweak some of that language to
Okay.
sort of account for that part of it. So, yeah.
And I will just sort of flag, one of the things that we had proposed is just that folks get enrolled automatically unless they request not to. We will likely repropose that, and it's just frankly an issue of convenience. The language here about in order to join or donate, someone has to get a form written, signed by themselves and the president of DESPA into management is pretty cumbersome. And frankly, I've had a lot of experiences, and I don't know if Greg has or the district has, where if someone's in urgent need of a sick bank and they haven't signed their form, an administration might be willing to let someone sign up late just to make sure that they get the medical care they need, because they're decent human beings. So we're really trying to streamline the access to this and just streamline the sign up. We'll have that fuller in our sort of counter, but this is also really tied, of course, to the proposal to increase to 15 sick days per year. I know the district had held on that. Are you still holding? Okay.
This is the next one.
Jumping to, what is that, 11? Yeah.
Page 8, number 11.
Yeah, thank you. Right, well, yeah, yep, good, thank you. So, yeah, so the next sort of update, new update is Proposal 11 on the personal days, which you had asked about. So that is a TA in terms of TAing that language, the proposed language regarding the personal day effective October 1st and 2 additional personal days effective January 1st of each school year.
Great, thank you very much.
And then we have, I think we move to,
The proposals from
yeah,
last
their
time.
proposals, which starts with 15, right? Yeah. Okay, so,
No, go back.
did I?
Page 9, right up over here.
Oh, 12, right, I skipped over a page. Okay, so, proposal, so now I'm going to the newer proposals that you folks had given us. Proposal 12, the language regarding student removal, if necessary, we're rejecting that language. We've got a lot of concerns regarding, the legal implications of this. I think I'd highlighted that last time, but I've seen similar language in other districts, and other districts have the exact same concerns, so. Proposal 13, Article 24, transfer proposal, we're rejecting that language. We feel that's operational and management rights, fits squarely within that. Proposal 14, stipends, we're going to hold on the first part of the proposal, and then we're rejecting the second part of the proposal. As you see, there's no such clause exists in Appendix C. And we're rejecting that last part of the proposal as well, the differential of $4 per hour for the work.
Okay.
Proposal 15, we're rejecting the changed name of the article to union rights. We think it's just fine as is. On 15B, we've got a counter regarding the proposed language there. So the counter is the identification of building representatives will be furnished to the employer immediately after their designation, and the association will notify the employer of any changes. Investigations of grievances shall occur outside of the school day hours. A formal structure will be mutually agreed upon at the start of each school year between the building representatives and the building principal for regularly scheduled meetings. If necessary, a monthly meeting will be scheduled between the leadership of DESPA and the superintendent.
So the big change there is from monthly to sort of as needed.
Yeah, and it may very well be that, monthly meetings are not necessarily, necessary. Top of the next page, we're holding on the proposal regarding the elected representatives having a day to attend the yearly MTA meeting. We've got a counter on the benefits disclosure language. I think we had some discussion on this, a little bit of it at least. Our counter is to provide a status notice, but to limit that status to the members' information regarding step and rate of pay for the next school year and expected assignment for the next school year.
Can you talk about why you're rejecting letting a member know their years of service and their sick day balance?
Yeah, I can answer
go
that.
yes, go ahead.
So we're in the process of converting over from iPass to PowerSchool. We have a new SIS system coming in next year. We believe that the new SIS system will give employees the ability to be able to go online and see all that information. So if it's readily available to employees online, where they just have to log on to their new iPass, they can just access that. But as you know from James transitioning from one SIS system to a new SIS system, until we get it and we see what they're doing, we don't want to put anything. It's difficult to say. It'll definitely be there. we'll have in the SIS system in front of us. It goes live July 1 to us. But we believe it's, and currently, if a staff member wants that, they just have to email Ellen, and Ellen can give it to them.
Okay.
I think that's going to be all there in the new Power School.
Making sure all the powers and stuff are in the system.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
And then I think the final one is proposal 17 under duration, which we're rejecting that proposed language.
So same question, what's the rationale for that one?
It's the July 1, school, the school year starts at 30.
Yeah, right. So the language has the agreement shall extend from July 1,
Mm-hmm.
2024, which is not consistent with the school year.
Okay. So what date are you contemplating for the duration of the agreement?
I guess we'd have to look at the actual, what we have
Yeah,
in the
the
agreement.
current one that we
Yeah.
currently have, which is consistent with DTA as well. Starting and ending dates is consistent with school year and then extending to school year.
Okay.
And then we
I think the first day of school this year is August 26th.
Yeah, so,
So this current one is August 30th, 2021 to August 29th, 2024.
well, maybe we need to confirm this
Teachers.
because I pulled the,
And the teacher's contract is totally
yeah,
different.
teachers is September 1. And then I pulled the notice actually from your demand to bargain, which said, noted June 30th as the current expiration date for this contract, which means that July 1 would be the start of the new one, so we
Oh,
should.
no,
May
that
have been
was
a
an
typo
error.
then.
Yeah, no.
All right.
it's-
We
yeah.
should go by what's in the
No,
contract.
yes, contract.
Yeah, so it should be,
Well, it doesn't align with the teacher's contract.
but it,
But I think the idea is it aligns with the school year. I understand it might be off by a couple of days.
so August 30.
Yeah, because the calendar might be just a day different depending on, even if you have a leap year, it might be a little bit different, but you can't, you know.
And the start of school year is, I don't know when the start of the school year was, the beginning of that
Got it.
contract.
Yeah,
It might have
right.
been- The last Monday of August could have been the 30th.
Okay, yeah, well, and again,
Depends on
it's,
Labor Day falls.
It's only.
whatever the day the
right.
contract expires, this needs to be effective the next date, so
Yeah.
we can just confirm that.
Yeah.
All right. Might have been a
We'll need to
typo in the demand.
Caucus.
Yeah, can we go back for a moment? All right, so proposal 13 regarding transfers. All right, you guys rejected it under the statement, this is operational rights. Again, we're pulling from a similar clause in the teacher's contract, which does provide parameters for transfers. And really what we're trying to avoid here is any sort of situation where an individual is given notice of an intended transfer, you know, effective the next day or effective the next week. We're trying to avoid disruption there.
I think we have in the current contract, I believe is it 5 or 10 days?
5.
5, okay.
So, in addition to just sort of the notice, in our mind, sort of the baseline, if you've got a transfer, if you've got an open position, is to ask for volunteers as the first thing to see if there's anyone who wishes to move, which is the request here in the transfer article, right? That the principal would ask for volunteers from eligible employees, and then the least senior employee would be transferred if no one volunteered. Does the district have issue with that concept?
Well, we would need to discuss, but I would say that that certainly limits the district's ability to make transfers if you would have to, you know, so, you know, my perspective, yes.
Okay. All right. We'll have to discuss that further, but again, it's there's a hole that needs to be filled. People should be asked if they want to fill it first. That's kind of where we're coming from with that. So we'll have to discuss that one further. And then for the stipends,
Is that 14?
14, you're holding on the first, which is sort of, again, just codifying what already exists. You're rejecting the second. Is that rejecting the piece of the workload?
I don't have the current appendix C in front of me, James.
Sure.
If you can pull it up,
Yeah.
I believe there is nothing in Appendix C that says that there will be a reduction in workload, that work shall be reduced by the noted amount without loss of hourly pay. I think it says something in it that it is agreed upon the discretion of the principal, so it's not an automatic that the, what position is this?
Yeah, it's page 4 of article of Appendix C, and it says, you're right, it's not shall. Teaching staff fulfilling the role of athletic director will not be assigned a duty period, which is a reduction.
Okay.
And then in addition, teaching duties may be reduced to 60%, subject to scheduling needs as determined by the building principal.
So it's not so that's why we
Okay.
reject it, because it's
All
not,
right.
it's not a given that it happens.
Yeah,
It's a discussion.
Okay, thank you. That is appreciated. Do you guys have other questions? Any other questions?
And we'll look at dates as well, too?
Yeah, yeah.
What's our furthest one?
We only have one more after this, correct?
We should probably try to get 2 on the books then, I think, if we could.
I don't know what the next one was.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
We can look
Yeah.
at progress.
Yeah.
Yep.
When's our next one?
Yeah, when is the next one?
8th? Okay, thank you. And we'll look for 2 other dates after May 8th?
Yeah, do we only have one on the books?
Yeah. We do.
Heavens to Betsy.
Yep, sorry.
We'll text you. Text me, Jonah.
Is a Tuesday.
Yeah, do you want to do dates while we're sitting here or no?
Let's do it in caucus, just so we can.
All right.
What we'll do is we'll come up with some possibilities.
Yeah.
To bring back to you.
Yeah.
Which is probably the easiest way to do it.
Yeah,
Killing
should
the
you want
smalls.
to check in 20 minutes or so?
Yeah, I mean,
We got a lot on both sides. Let's at least touch base.
Let's
and-
touch base. We both did a lot.
Yeah. If we come back, it might not be for a full
Right,
half-hour discussion.
What's that?
We probably won't come back for a full half-hour discussion, but.
Right, so then I think the question is,
We have to at least come back, talk about dates, so.
yes, yeah, but I just mean, you know.
Let's check in 15
What
minutes.
can we,
Yeah.
what is there to hopefully talk about? So
Find out.
let's see if.
There's lots.
Yeah,
There's
no,
the,
right, but
there's the
what can we sort of make progress on?
$40,000 per hour. That's- We're really looking for the district to make that happen.
What date? Anything. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Sign me up.